on, everybody? Got another question of the week for you. This one's going to be kind of long. It's a question I've been thinking about asking for quite a bit now, and that is, what is a movie that is coming out in the future that you would much rather see, or you basically think would be better if it was a TV series instead? And for me, as much as it kind of pains me to say this, Gears of War. I've been a big Gears fan for a long time. The movie's been sitting in development hell forever now. They had announced when Gears of War 4 dropped that they were going to start working on one. But from what I've been hearing, it's going to be an alternate timeline, still taking place on the same planet kind of thing. And I've been thinking for the longest time that I think some of these comic book movies, these video game movies, don't really hit it with audiences because you're trying to cram a lot of storyline into a 2.5 hour movie. And I honestly think that Gears of War would be so much better as an 8 to 10 episode, it'd have to be either streaming or on a premium cable channel, mainly because of the violence and the language. And the reason I'd rather them do this is I want them to start with the Pendulum Wars before the Locusts ever show up. Locusts being the main the antagonist. Sorry, I almost forgot the word there for a second. The main antagonist of the series to begin with. If you're not familiar with Gears of War. And that's because Gears of War has books that some of them take place before the Locust and Human War ever started, which is weird to me that they're still considered human even though they're on a different planet. But, I'm not going to look too far into that. But there's characters like Dominic Santiago was in the first 3 games, and you hear, there's Easter eggs and stuff for him. You hear about him later on in the newer games too. But they never get to mention Carlos Santiago, his older brother. And the Santiagos and Marcus were really good friends when they were kids. Like they basically grew up together. Marcus lived at their house pretty much. And it's always been weird to me that we've never had a game that goes back and revisits that before the Locust War. The only thing we had was Judgment, which I know how a lot of people feel about that game. But that was like the pre-Locust War kind of thing. I just think a TV series about it would work so much better because you can go back to the point before then. You can see what happens to Carlos Santiago. You could build up better character arcs having a TV show instead of just a movie. I really wish that they would do this instead of the movie. If what they're planning on doing with the movie is, like I said earlier, it's an alternate timeline, doesn't even have anything to do with these characters. Because there's some of us have been waiting so long for this. And I have like the perfect, for me at least, the perfect way to do this is you could do the planet like the green screen that they use in, say, Spartacus. If you've ever watched the Starz show Spartacus, I thought they did a really good job with the green screen work in that. I would love for them to use as much, or as many, I should say, as many practical effects as they could. CGI is great. Don't get me wrong, CGI is great. But I think practical effects for this will work so much better. I got part of this idea with using the CGI, though, just a little bit, was from the original Brendan Fraser Mummy, where the mummy would scream and their mouths would open really wide. Well, there's a character called the Cantus in Gears that kind of does something similar. And I was like, you use CGI to do that. But I think practical locust monsters and practical effects would do such a great service to this story because it's so epic. Like, regardless of how you feel about the gameplay of the games or anything like that, the story behind this is such an interesting story that I just don't believe that a movie, as much as, let's face it, they put this movie out, I'm gonna watch it anyway. That that's all there is to it. I'm gonna take whatever they give me, really. But I honestly think that this should be an 8 to 10, like tight 10 hour, 8 hour movie. I think that it would work really well. I think this is one of those properties that they could do that with. But you know, Gears of War is mine. You could pick any comic, video game, whatever that they're turning into a movie that you think would work better as a television show. Drop it down in the comments. Let me know. I'm super interested to hear what your thoughts are. That's going to do it for me today. Later, tots.